Chosen one, listen carefully. Heaven pauses for you right now. You were never random, never accidental, never forgotten. You are marked. You are sealed. From the day you took your first breath, the fingerprints of the Almighty have been upon your life. You were not sent to blend in, but to stand apart. Every trial, every silent battle, every tear that fell unseen, none of it escaped the eyes of God. You have felt the shaking, haven't you? The shifting in your spirit that told you you're standing on the edge of something divine. The world tried to convince you that you are ordinary, but heaven whispers otherwise. The Spirit says, you are not like the rest. You are a divine interruption. An answer to a generation that has forgotten the sound of holiness. Chosen one, I need you to understand this truth. Before the world rejected you, heaven selected you. Before they tried to end you, God already wrote your continuation. You are here, not because you survived, no. You are here because purpose refused to let you die. You have been carried through fire not to be burned, but to emerge refined, purified, unbreakable. Every season that seemed like loss was actually preparation. The isolation, the betrayal, the nights you couldn't breathe, all were divine training grounds. While others mocked your stillness, God was forging steel in your spirit. They saw delay. Heaven saw development. They thought you were finished. God was only beginning. There is something sacred about the ones who do not quit. You have been pressed, but not crushed. You have been struck down, but never destroyed. You carry a light that refuses to bow to darkness. The enemy thought that by surrounding you with chaos, he could silence your anointing. But what he didn't know was that the very storm sent to drown you would become your stage of revelation. You were always meant to rise in the middle of wreckage. When others collapsed, you stood. When others lost faith, you still whispered prayers in the dark. That whisper was not small. It echoed through eternity. Every time you said, "I still trust you." God, heaven recorded it. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, angels took notice. Every time you chose peace instead of panic, the Lord marked it as victory. And now, something is shifting. The same people who underestimated you are about to witness what divine reversal looks like. The same powers that once laughed at your struggle will tremble at your breakthrough. For the Lord your God is not slow in justice. He is precise. He has been setting the stage, aligning the moment, preparing the revelation of His glory through your story. Listen, this is your moment to rise. This message did not find you by coincidence. It is divine intervention. Heaven has delayed the noise of the world just so this truth could reach your ears. You are chosen for this exact time. No longer will you question your worth. No longer will you compare your journey to others. You were never behind, you were hidden until the appointed time. They tried to dim your fire, but they failed. They tried to end your story, but they only announced the beginning of your next chapter. The enemy could not stop you because the power sustaining you does not come from man. It comes from the throne of grace. Chosen one, step out of fear. Step out of confusion. Step out of everything that told you to stay silent. Heaven's seal is upon you. You are God's evidence that light still wins. You are the vessel through which generations will remember that mercy triumphs over judgment, and that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Your heart may be weary, but strength is coming. Your path may look uncertain, but destiny is unfolding. Lift your head. This is not the end. It's the unveiling of purpose. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, to give you hope and a future." Chosen one. If this word resonates in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Like this message, share it so another weary heart might find light. Leave a comment below declaring the number 777, the number of divine completion, to say, "I receive my renewal." And if you haven't already, subscribe, because heaven is not finished speaking to you. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are not finished. You are chosen. They thought they could hide what they did, didn't they? The whispers behind your back, the subtle sabotage, the unseen daggers aimed at your peace, none of it escaped heaven's gaze. The enemy's hidden schemes were woven carefully in the dark. But even darkness cannot hide from the eyes of the Almighty. Chosen one, you must understand this. While they plotted against you, God was already plotting for you. There were conversations you were not invited to, decisions made to block your progress, hearts that smiled at your face, yet cursed your name in silence. They called it strategy, but heaven called it exposure in progress. Every hidden plan was already numbered. Every scheme had an expiration date written in invisible ink only heaven could see. You walked into rooms that were never meant to welcome you. And still, you carried peace like a crown. They mistook your gentleness for weakness. They thought silence meant surrender. But silence, to the chosen one, is not defeat. It is the sound of heaven preparing thunder. For while you stayed still, God was gathering evidence. The same tables they whispered over will soon witness your vindication. You see, the Lord allows enemies to speak so He can reveal their hearts. You were not meant to fight every battle. You were meant to watch divine justice unfold. The hidden agendas, the false alliances, the betrayals, all of it has been logged in heaven's court. And now, justice is moving. But before it came to this point, you questioned everything, didn't you? You wondered why the attacks seemed to multiply the moment you tried to rise. You cried out, "God, why does doing right bring so much resistance?" What you didn't see was that resistance reveals relevance. The stronger the opposition, the greater the anointing on your life. They didn't just oppose you because of who you are. They opposed you because of what you carry. The light inside you made their darkness uncomfortable. Your obedience threatened their control. Your growth exposed their stagnation. And so, they schemed. They built walls around opportunities. They tried to shut doors meant for you. But the same God who opens doors no man can shut was quietly watching, quietly preparing, quietly dismantling their influence piece by piece. Beloved, understand this truth. When people plot evil against the chosen, they are not plotting against you. They are plotting against the one who sent you. And when you belong to God, any attack launched against your life must first pass through His permission. If He allows it, it's for your promotion. If He blocks it, it's for your protection. Either way, you win. There is a time appointed for every hidden thing to be revealed, and that time is drawing near. God is uncovering every false smile, every manipulative tongue, every hidden motive. What was done in secret is coming to light. The same ones who mocked your faith will tremble when they see how God defends his chosen. But take note, your role in this is not vengeance. The temptation to fight back is strong. But your vindication comes not from rage, but from righteousness. The greatest proof that you are chosen is that you can stand tall even when lied about, betrayed, or misunderstood. The mark of the chosen is not retaliation, it's restraint. Heaven fights differently. The world fights to destroy, heaven fights to deliver. The Lord does not simply remove your enemies, he reveals them, reforms you, and then restores what was stolen. That is justice on a divine level. So don't be discouraged by their schemes. Their words cannot rewrite God's promise. Their jealousy cannot delay your destiny. You may have lost people, but you have not lost purpose. The very plans designed to bury you are becoming the soil for your resurrection. You will rise, not in bitterness, but in brilliance. Remember, chosen one. The greatest exposures come silently. You won't need to shout. You won't need to explain. Heaven is your witness, and time is your proof. Every false alliance is being broken, every deceiver unmasked. The Lord is not mocked. What they sowed in deceit, they shall reap in exposure. Stand still and watch what happens next. The winds are shifting. Those who laughed will soon bow their heads in awe, not of you, but of the God who guards you. For when heaven moves, it moves swiftly without warning, without apology, without delay. As the voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. So, stay still. Chosen one, let heaven fight while you rest. The storm around you is not meant to break you, it's meant to prove that even when chaos surrounds you, the hand of God remains unshaken. Justice is already in motion. Every lie, every hidden scheme, every deceitful word, they are collapsing under the weight of divine truth. You are covered. You are seen. You are protected. The same God who brought you this far will not let you fall now. You've carried weights that others could not even name. The crushing pressure of being misunderstood. The burden of staying faithful when everything in you wanted to give up. The heaviness of smiling when your heart was breaking. Chosen one. Heaven saw it all. The world may have judged you for slowing down, but God calls it endurance. They only saw the surface. He saw the strength it took for you to keep breathing through the storm. You did not break because you are weak. You broke because you are human. Yet, even in your breaking, God was building something beautiful. Every tear was a brick in the altar of your testimony. Every sleepless night became a seed of divine resilience. What felt like punishment was actually process. You were being pressed, but not abandoned. You were being tested, but never disqualified. When others walked away because they couldn't understand your struggle, heaven drew nearer. Angels surrounded you when you didn't even have words left to pray. The silence you thought was divine distance was actually divine protection. Heaven shielding you from distractions while your spirit was being rewired for greatness. They told you to move on. But how could you when your heart was still carrying invisible scars? You learned to function while wounded, to worship while weary, to speak hope when your voice trembled. That is not weakness. Beloved, that is evidence of anointing. The oil that flows from your life was pressed out of your pain. You see, the crushing was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to distinguish you. Many are called, but few are crushed enough to carry the fragrance of heaven. You are one of the few. The pain you endured was not wasted, it was sacred refinement. You didn't lose yourself, you found your divine identity through the suffering. Every moment you felt like quitting was actually a divine checkpoint. God was whispering, "Not yet. There's more in you." The tears that fell in secret watered the very ground from which your next miracle will spring. The heaviness that made you bow down in despair is now teaching you how to bow in worship. The crushing season was God's classroom. You learned the language of surrender there. You discovered that true faith isn't built on comfort, but on conviction. When everything was stripped away, you still chose Him. And heaven took note. Remember when you thought you couldn't carry it anymore? When your heart whispered, "God, I can't take one more blow." That's when the unseen hand of grace lifted you. You didn't see it, but He was holding you together when everything else was falling apart. That's why you're still here. You are not standing because you're strong. You are standing because grace refused to let you collapse. And now, every scar tells a story of survival and sanctification. Those who once pitied you will one day seek your wisdom, for you carry revelations born only in fire. God has turned your pain into power, your weakness into worship, and your sorrow into strategy. As we are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Olu, let that truth sink deep. He was never far. When you wept, He wept. When you felt unseen, He leaned closer. When your heart shattered, His hands were the ones holding the fragments together. And now heaven whispers again, "You made it through what was meant to end you." The crushing could not cancel the calling. The weight could not weaken the words spoken over your life. The pressure only proved your capacity. You are not the same person who entered the storm. You've emerged, wiser, purer, more dangerous to darkness than ever before. Chosen one. This is your moment to testify, not with noise, but with presence. Every step you take forward from here is proof that divine endurance is real. Your survival is not just for you, it's a prophetic sign that God still raises the broken and crowns them with glory. Now, let your spirit respond. Comment. Still standing. 1. Say it as a declaration, not of pride, but of praise, because you could have lost your mind. You could have lost your faith. You could have lost your will to keep going. But here you are still standing, and your stance is a sermon louder than any words. It tells the heavens, the earth, and even hell itself that the chosen one cannot be crushed out of destiny. There were nights when heaven felt silent, weren't there? Nights when your prayers seemed to vanish into the ceiling, and the waiting stretched far longer than you thought your heart could endure. You asked, "God, where are you?" And the silence answered louder than thunder. But what if the silence wasn't absence? What if the delay was protection? Chosen one. The divine timeline is not measured by your clock. It moves by alignment, not by anxiety. God never delays without design. He holds you back, not to punish, but to prepare. There are things He must build in you before He releases what He promised to you. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every season of stillness, it all carried purpose. You thought the delay meant denial, but heaven was whispering, "Not yet. Beloved, the stage isn't ready. The people assigned to your destiny are still being positioned. The enemies are still revealing themselves. The road is still being cleared." While you mourned what felt like loss, God was constructing your next level behind the veil. Sometimes divine love looks like restraint. The Father knows what would destroy you if given too soon. So he withholds. Not because he's cruel, but because he's kind. He delays to develop, to deepen your roots so that when you rise, you remain. Many can handle blessing, but only the chosen can handle waiting. For waiting is where faith matures and pride dies. You learned patience in the silence. You discovered trust when there were no signs. You found strength in surrender. The delay stripped away your illusions of control until all that was left was faith. You learned to rest, not in the outcome, but in his character. And that is the essence of divine maturity, to trust his heart even when you can't trace his hand. There were moments when others surged ahead, and you wondered if you'd been forgotten. They seemed to flourish while you were frozen. But what you didn't see was that their quick elevation lacked foundation. They climbed ladders God never placed. While you were being rooted for endurance, they built speed. You built stability. The divine delay was heaven's way of ensuring that when your time came, no storm could uproot you. For every season of hiding refines humility. Every season of silence polishes discernment. Every delay is a spiritual detox, cleansing you of premature desires and worldly ambition, so that when the promise finally arrives, you can hold it with pure hands. Chosen one. You must remember, God's no is not rejection, it's redirection. His silence is not abandonment, it's strategy. His waiting room is not a punishment chamber, it's a transformation center. The delay doesn't diminish destiny, it strengthens it. If God had answered your prayer when you begged him to, you might have settled for less. You might have clung to people who could not carry your calling. You might have stepped through doors that were dressed in light but built on deception. He spared you from premature exposure, from counterfeit opportunities, from alliances meant to derail your anointing. You thought he was ignoring you, but he was guarding you. Think back to the things you once cried over, the things you thought you couldn't live without. Do you see now how they would have crushed you had you received them too early? God saw that before you did. He closed doors not to wound you, but to preserve your promise. What felt like delay was mercy wearing disguise. So, do not despise the waiting. Chosen one. It is the womb of destiny. Time is not your enemy when it is held in divine hands. Every second of waiting refines your perception, sharpens your discernment, and amplifies your obedience. You are not behind, you are becoming, and when the release comes, it will come suddenly. The years of hiddenness will condense into a moment of manifestation. The same people who thought you were stagnant will be stunned by how swiftly God moves when the time is right. The delay only makes the arrival more undeniable. Heaven never wastes waiting. Every tear, every sigh, every prayer uttered in frustration is stored like seed in sacred soil. When the appointed time comes, it will all bloom at once. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verse 7, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." And hold on to that. Beloved, later always comes. Understanding always arrives. And when it does, You will thank Him for every no, every pause, every prolonged silence, because now you will know it was not punishment. It was precision. They wanted you silenced, didn't they? They tried to hush your voice, to bury your fire beneath ridicule and resistance. Every time you spoke truth, opposition rose like a tide. They thought if they drowned your sound, they could erase your purpose. But what they didn't understand was that your voice was not born from approval. It was born from anointing. Chosen one. Heaven placed a sound within you that no human power can mute. It's not just a sound, it's a vibration that awakens sleeping souls. It's the trumpet call that reminds a weary generation that light still lives. You've always felt it. That holy stirring deep within you. The call to speak when silence feels safer. To stand when blending in feels easier. But still, you speak. Still, you rise. Still, you carry words that break chains. Every chosen vessel becomes a threat when they decide to speak truth. Your words carry weight because they are not coated in opinion, they are soaked in divine fire. That's why resistance grew louder the moment you opened your mouth. Hell always fears a healed voice. When the wounded begin to speak, deliverance begins to spread. They tried to quiet you through rejection. They tried to shame you into silence. But they forgot what God anoints. He also amplifies. When heaven wants your message to be heard, even algorithms bow, platforms shift, doors open, unexpected connections form, because the same hand that anointed your voice can carry it further than you could ever imagine. Beloved, your voice is not just for you. It is the bridge someone else will walk across to reach healing. Every syllable you speak in truth becomes a torch, lighting the path for those still lost in the dark. Don't underestimate the power of your sound. It carries eternity's echo. Think of your message like a seed. When you share it, it falls into the hearts of listeners like fertile soil. Some seeds bloom instantly, others rest quietly until the rain of the Spirit awakens them. Your words may travel farther than your eyes will ever see. Someone in silence may find courage because you refuse to stay quiet. Someone's faith may rise because you dared to speak when it cost you everything. And just as a seed needs light and water to grow, this divine work, this ministry, this message thrives through connection. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not just supporting content, you're watering seeds of truth across the earth. Every interaction becomes a ripple of light, expanding through the shadows. Even your generosity becomes sacred soil. When you donate, you're not giving to a person, you're giving to the continuation of a divine assignment. You're saying, I believe this fire must keep burning. The oil that fuels these words, the time, the prayer. The creation is sustained by those who understand that light deserves to live loud. You've been fed by this flame, haven't you? You've found comfort in these words. When you were close to giving up, you felt seen, spoken to, strengthened. Now, imagine being part of that same miracle for someone else. When you support, you're helping that message find another weary heart, another broken soul. You become the unseen hand that extends heaven's comfort beyond your own reach. The world spends easily on distractions that numb the spirit. But when you sow into what heals, you align yourself with eternal reward. Heaven records every act of generosity done in sincerity. You don't give to earn blessing. You give because you are blessed to be a conduit of light. Chosen one. Your voice, your presence, your sharing, it matters. You are not an audience, you are a partner in purpose. Together, we are building an altar of light in a digital world, drowning in noise. Each like, each share, each word of encouragement, each seed of generosity, it all becomes incense rising to heaven. So, as you listen, ask yourself, what if my small act today fuels someone else's deliverance tomorrow? Because it can. It truly can. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Your harvest is coming. But remember, God often multiplies through your willingness to pour. The more light you give, the more light you receive, the more love you release, the stronger heaven's current flows through you. Beloved, your sound matters. Your support matters. Your obedience matters. Keep speaking. Keep shining. Keep solving. You are helping build something that will outlive us all, a legacy of faith, echoing through generations yet unborn. If these words find you today, let them remind you, your silence was never meant to be permanent. Your voice is revival. Let it rise. And as you do, heaven will ensure that no power, no scheme, no shadow can ever silence what God has ordained to be heard. There comes a moment when heaven stops watching and starts moving. The shift is sudden, almost invisible at first, like the quiet moment before dawn when darkness realizes it's losing its grip. That's where you are now. Chosen one, the season of silent suffering is over. The season of divine response has begun. God's justice doesn't crawl, it strikes. It may seem delayed, but when it moves with precision and speed. Everything that once stood against you is now being rearranged under heaven's command. You will look around and realize that the very ground which once trembled beneath your feet has become your stage of victory. The storm that threatened to drown you is now carrying you forward like wind in your sails. The Lord has been patient, not weak. But patient. His silence wasn't surrender. It was set up. He let them think they won so that his justice would be undeniable. They celebrated too soon, mocked too loudly, and underestimated the weight of his hand. And now, divine balance is unfolding. The scale is tipping. The oppressed are being lifted. The arrogant are being brought low. Beloved, what you feel right now, the stirring, the sudden clarity, the sense that something is shifting, it's not imagination. It's heaven's movement. God is responding to every prayer you whispered through tears, every act of obedience you carried out in secret. The waiting wasn't wasted. The pain was not in vain. Every moment of endurance has now matured into divine authority. You see, justice is not just about punishment. It's about restoration. God doesn't merely deal with your enemies. He restores what they tried to steal. The time, the peace, the opportunities, the joy, they're all returning. Pressed down and overflowing. Where there was humiliation, there will be honor. Where there was loss, there will be legacy. Don't misinterpret what's happening now. The sudden shifts, the closed doors, the unexpected endings, they are not chaos, they are correction. God is removing anything that hinders your rise. The divine rearrangement might feel uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Every dismantled connection, every removed distraction, every fall of false power, it's all part of heaven's swift justice. And what's beautiful is that you don't have to fight for it. You don't have to prove your worth, argue your innocence, or explain your purity. The proof will be visible in the results. When God restores, everyone knows. You will not need to announce that you've been vindicated. Your peace will speak for you. Your elevation will declare what your words never could. There's a divine irony at work here. Those who tried to block your path are now paving it. Those who wanted you forgotten are now forced to remember your name. The tables haven't just turned, they've been rebuilt in your favor. This is the part where heaven writes history with your story. But take heed. Chosen one, when justice comes, humility must remain. This victory is not about vengeance, it's about vindication. The goal is not to gloat, but to glorify. Let your triumph be a testimony, not a taunt, because justice that comes from heaven always carries mercy within it. You are stepping into a new rhythm of divine order. Things will accelerate now, doors opening without effort, paths clearing without explanation, opportunities arriving as if summoned by light itself. It will feel surreal at first, as though you've stepped into another reality. But that's what divine timing feels like. It's not fair. It's favor. Remember this, those who touched you touched the apple of his eye. You were never unprotected. You were simply unprovoked until the appointed time. Now that heaven has risen on your behalf, no voice of accusation can speak louder than the decree of God. The case is closed. The verdict is rendered. The chosen one stands vindicated, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. Oh, that's your portion. Beloved, you are known, protected, and now avenged, not by your hand, but by his. And now, as a prophetic act, seal this truth in your spirit. Declare it by faith. Type 888 inches, the comments. 8 is the number of new beginnings, and 888 means a divine restart, an era reborn under grace. When you write it, you're not just typing a number, you're declaring to heaven, my season of justice has arrived. Oh, let it be a sign that you've stepped into something new, something swift, something sealed by divine order. Because from this day forward, what once worked against you will start working for you. God's justice has moved. His hand has spoken. His chosen has risen. Exposure is a holy act. It is not chaos, it is cleansing. When God decides to uncover what has been hidden, he does it not to shame, but to reveal truth. Chosen one, the season of veiled deception around you is ending. The masks are falling. The pretenders are trembling. And every false connection that drained your spirit is being stripped away. For too long, you walked among those who smiled with their lips, but sharpened knives in their hearts. You sensed it, didn't you? The strange tension in conversations, the sudden silence when you entered a room, the feeling that something unseen was working against your peace. But you stayed kind. You stayed pure. You refused to let their shadows dim your light. And for that, heaven now moves on your behalf. Exposure is not punishment, it is proof of divine favor. When God begins to remove layers of deceit from around you, it is a sign that promotion is near. He cannot elevate you while you are surrounded by contamination. The higher He calls you, the clearer your atmosphere must become. The people who once clung to you out of convenience will find themselves unable to remain in your presence. Beloved, do not grieve their departure. Some were sent for a season, not a lifetime. Their absence is not loss, it is liberation. Every person revealed was an answer to a prayer you once prayed. God, protect me from what is not of you. Exposure is heaven's way of honoring that request. You see, the divine process of stripping away always feels harsh at first. You may question why certain alliances failed or why trust was betrayed. But understand this: God is not trying to hurt you. He is refining your discernment. The more anointed you become, the more sensitive you must be to hidden motives. He allows certain betrayals not to break your heart, but to sharpen your spirit. And yes, it hurts. The sting of disloyalty. The ache of discovering that those you prayed for were secretly praying against you. It cuts deep. But even in that pain, there is revelation. You learn to depend less on approval and more on alignment. You begin to see that loyalty is not proven in words, but in consistency. Exposure brings separation, and separation brings sanctification. The fire that removes impurities from gold also defines its worth. Likewise, this exposure season is not meant to embarrass you, it's meant to polish you. When the false falls away, what remains is pure, radiant, and ready for greater glory. Heaven never reveals without reason. There are moments when the Spirit Himself begins to uncover what your eyes cannot see. You will notice patterns, sudden discomfort around certain people, a heaviness when you enter certain spaces. That is discernment, awakening. Pay attention. The Holy Spirit is guiding you toward clarity. Some of those who once appeared powerful will suddenly lose influence. Those who once manipulated situations to their advantage will find their control slipping. Truth has a way of dismantling illusions, and when God exposes, He does so in perfect measure, enough to protect you, never to destroy needlessly. So, resist the urge to shout, "I told you so." You don't need to vindicate yourself. God is your defender, and He knows how to display justice with elegance. He will let truth rise naturally, like the sun breaking through fog. And when it does, you won't need to argue your innocence. The light will do it for you. Chosen one. Every revelation carries renewal. Every exposure clears space for new beginnings. This is why you feel lighter lately, as if old chains have been quietly lifted. Heaven is decluttering your circle, removing voices that never spoke life into you. What remains after this storm will be sacred, people of integrity, covenant, and pure hearts. Remember this truth: God never exposes to leave you empty. He removes what's false to make room for what's holy. He subtracts what's shallow to multiply what's eternal. The pruning may look like loss, but it's actually preparation for abundance. And through it all, keep your heart clean. Do not let bitterness grow where betrayal once lived. You cannot carry the fragrance of heaven with the scent of resentment clinging to your soul. Forgive, release, and rise, as the prophet wrote in the scroll of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 3. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. That's what He's doing in you, purifying, refining, exposing, and preparing. You are being crafted into a vessel that can carry His justice without contamination, His truth without pride, and His glory without distortion. So do not mourn what is being removed. Thank God for the clarity, for the refining, for the unveiling, because when exposure comes, it means elevation is only steps away. The false fades, the true remains, and the chosen rise unshaken, uncovered, unstoppable. You walk unscathed. Though the fire once touched your skin, you have passed through things that should have ended you. But here you are whole, breathing, glowing with quiet strength. The miracle is not that you avoided the battle, but that you survived it, untouched in spirit. The wounds may have brushed your body, but they could not stain your soul. Chosen one. Have you noticed it? How storms no longer terrify you like they once did. How you no longer crumble under the weight that used to crush you. That is not numbness, it is transformation. You've learned that what was meant to harm you only built endurance inside you. The heat of affliction forged a resilience that can no longer be shaken. You are walking proof that protection does not always look like escape. Sometimes God protects by presence, not by prevention. He doesn't always remove you from the fire, He joins you in it. And when He walks with you, the flames lose their power. The enemy intended to burn away your future, but heaven used that same flame to burn away your fear. It's strange, isn't it? How pain can purify, how loss can strip away illusion and reveal what truly matters. You once prayed for strength, and God answered by giving you struggle. You asked for peace, and He allowed storms, so you could learn that peace isn't found in calmness, but in confidence. Every hardship you faced was heaven's classroom, teaching your spirit to live above circumstance. And now, you walk differently. There's a stillness about you that unsettles darkness. You no longer react to every attack, because you've learned that divine protection doesn't always roar it. Sometimes simply is. You are covered by something unseen, wrapped in a grace that cannot be stolen. The enemy threw his best, and you are still here. That is your testimony. Every arrow lost its aim. Every weapon missed its mark. Every plan crumbled before completion, not because you fought harder, but because heaven stood guard. Beloved, you must understand what shielded you was not luck, it was legacy. You are covered by the prayers of generations before you, by the purpose written into your bloodline. The protection around you is ancient and intentional. You are not standing by chance, you are standing by design. Even when you didn't see it, angels were stationed beside you. When you were too weary to pray, the Spirit Himself interceded for you in groans beyond words. When despair whispered that it was over, grace answered, "Not yet." That's why nothing could end you. Not betrayal, not scarcity, not heartbreak. You were built to bend, but never break. You were shaped to withstand pressure and still release fragrance, like a rose in a storm. You lost a few petals, but kept your beauty. And now, that same endurance that once merely kept you alive is becoming your authority. You walk with quiet confidence because you know what it feels like to be carried by unseen hands. The peace you now wear confuses those who expected you to collapse. They wonder how you keep shining after so much loss, but the secret is simple. When God keeps you, even fire becomes fertilizer. What once burned now blooms. The ashes you sat in have turned to soil rich with new beginnings. You are living proof that divine protection doesn't always prevent the fall. It transforms it into flight. You've seen it before in Scripture, those who walked through danger but came out untouched. The same God who sealed Daniel in the lion's den, who shielded the Israelites beneath a pillar of fire, who stood with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace, that same God stood with you. He didn't remove the fire, he removed its power. And just as the prophet Daniel recorded in his writings, chapter 3, verse 27, the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed, their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. End quote. That is your story too. You came through the flames, but the smell of smoke is not on you. You are walking evidence that grace leaves no trace of damage. So, lift your head. Beloved, the storm was not your end, it was your unveiling. The fire did not mark you with pain, it marked you with purpose. You now carry an invisible seal that tells darkness, this one belongs to God. End quote. Walk forward without fear. You have already endured what others could not. You are the survivor. The storm could not claim. The testimony the enemy could not silence. And now, wherever you go, the world will see not what you suffered, but what you became, unshaken, unscarred, and undeniably chosen. There comes a moment when your faith no longer hides it, begins to roar. You feel it, don't you? That quiet but undeniable stirring in your chest, like thunder before the rain. It's the moment heaven says, speak, because your silence is no longer safety, it's suppression. The power inside you was never meant to stay contained. Chosen one. Your words are not ordinary. They carry weight in the spiritual realm. When you speak, atmospheres shift. When you declare, chains break. But for too long, you've held your tongue, afraid of being misunderstood, mocked, or ignored. You've swallowed your truth to keep the peace with those who never had peace within themselves. But now, heaven demands your sound. Every revival begins with one voice that refuses to stay quiet. You are that voice. You may not feel qualified, but God specializes in using the overlooked. He anoints the ordinary to do the extraordinary. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead now breathes through you, commanding you to rise, to speak, to stand. You see, your declaration carries power because it is born from endurance. You are not speaking theory, you're speaking testimony. You've seen the fire, you've felt the betrayal, you've tasted despair, and still, you stand. That's why your voice carries weight. It's been baptized in survival. When you open your mouth, heaven echoes through your tone. The world needs that sound now more than ever. There are those who are suffocating in silence, waiting for someone, anyone to say, I understand. You can make it. Your words could be the hand that lifts them. Your story could be the map that leads them home. Never underestimate the impact of one authentic sentence released under divine fire. The enemy has always feared your voice because he knows what happens when you use it. When you pray, he trembles. When you declare, his lies collapse. When you testify, chains shatter, not just yours, but those of others listening. That is why life fought to keep you silent. The pressure you endured wasn't random, it was warfare against your sound. but you made it here. And now, the command from heaven is simple. Speak again. This time, not from pain, but from power. You are not begging God to move, He is moving through you. Every word you release now becomes an arrow of light, cutting through confusion, despair, and darkness. Remember, faith unspoken is faith unfinished. God has placed creative force in your words, the same way He spoke light into existence. He invites you to speak destiny into being. You have the authority to call peace into chaos, order into disorder, and strength into weakness. Every word of faith is a seed, and heaven waters it with divine timing. There will be moments when you don't see immediate results, but don't stop speaking. The spiritual realm listens long before the physical one catches up. Each declaration builds momentum until suddenly what you've been speaking becomes what you're living. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 13, it is written, I believed, therefore I have spoken. Since we have that same spirit of faith, we also believe and therefore speak. That's your blueprint. Speak what you believe, not what you see. Declare light in darkness, healing in pain, abundance in lack. Your voice is a bridge between heaven's intention and earth's manifestation. You've been through too much to stay quiet now. Every scar has become a microphone. Every wound has turned into a window for glory to shine through. Speak, even if your voice trembles. Heaven hears conviction louder than perfection. And now, as a sign of agreement with heaven's decree, type, I speak life. Lent, say it and mean it. Because when you declare those 3 words, you are doing more than commenting, you are activating. You are choosing creation over destruction, power over paralysis, truth over silence. You are saying, no more will my words feed fear, they will build faith. Lent, this is your awakening moment. Speak with courage. Speak with compassion. Speak with conviction. Your voice is not an echo, it is an origin. Every sentence you utter in alignment with God becomes law in the Spirit. The enemy knows it. That's why he fought so hard to silence you. But he failed. So now, speak boldly. Speak clearly. Speak consistently. The world doesn't need another noise. It needs your truth wrapped in divine authority. Heaven has given you permission. The time for hiding is over. Open your mouth and let every syllable remind darkness that you're still here, still standing, still chosen, and now speaking with heaven's fire. From victim to victor, that is the quiet miracle written into your journey. You didn't just survive, you transformed. What once looked like defeat has become divine training. Every pain that tried to bury you became soil where purpose began to bloom. You were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rise as living proof that grace rewrites endings. Chosen one. Your story carries weight because it's soaked in honesty. You didn't wear a mask of perfection. You walked through fire with open wounds. And yet, here you are. Not bitter, but better. Not hollow, but holy. God didn't just pull you out, He pulled purpose out of you. The ashes that once symbolized loss now glimmer with the reflection of your new strength. Think of a tree that's been struck by lightning. For a while, it looks ruined, scorched, bark, deep scars. But in time, that same wound becomes the mark of resilience Roots die deeper after storms. New growth pushes from the break. That's you. The very hits that were meant to destroy you have become proof of your divine durability. And now, others will come to sit under the shade of your story. Your restoration will refresh those who are still in the heat of their battle. You may not even realize it, but your life is becoming a living sermon, one written not in ink, but in endurance. That's why sharing your light matters. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not just interacting, you are building altars in the digital wilderness. Every click is like a candle lit in a dark corridor, helping another lost soul find their way back to hope. You never know whose midnight your act of support might illuminate, and for those who feel moved to give, to donate, to sow, you are adding oil to the flame. Think of this message like a lighthouse. It needs oil to keep shining, to guide ships through storms. Your generosity keeps that light burning for someone you may never meet. It's not charity, it's legacy. It's how heaven multiplies a single flame into 1,000 fires. When you support, you're saying, I believe this light matters. You're saying, I refuse to let truth fade into silence. You're helping keep alive a stream of words that have carried countless souls from despair to destiny. And whether your offering is small or great, it is sacred, because it comes from the heart of one who understands the value of hope. The world invests easily in distractions, but few invest in deliverance. When you pour into what heals, heaven takes note. The divine economy doesn't measure generosity by amount, but by alignment. When your heart says yes to sustaining what uplifts, you're partnering with heaven's mission. Beloved, your life itself is a donation of light. You've been giving, even without realizing it, every smile in pain, every prayer whispered for others, every act of kindness that cost you comfort. You've been a walking offering. And now, God is teaching you that even your support, your participation, your encouragement, these are all extensions of that same giving spirit. Imagine a vineyard. Each vine produces differently. Some grapes are large, some small, but together they make the wine that fills the king's table. That's what your contribution does. It adds to the harvest. It sweetens the flow. It becomes part of something greater than itself. As was proclaimed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 6, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. That's not just a promise, it's a spiritual principle. Every act of generosity, every moment of support, returns multiplied. When you share truth, you receive more truth. When you help light another candle, your own burns brighter. When you sow into hope, heaven sows into you, chosen one. Your transformation is already evidence of divine investment. Now you get to become the investor, sowing encouragement, spreading truth, sustaining light. So, as you listen, let your heart respond however it feels led. Maybe by sharing this word with someone who needs it. Maybe by subscribing so you never miss what heaven is saying next. Maybe by sowing into the flame that once reignited yours. Do it not from pressure, but from purpose. Every gesture of love you release becomes a ripple in eternity. The same God who multiplied 5 loaves and 2 fish still multiplies every seed sown with faith today. You are not just a receiver of light, you are a builder of it, a keeper of the flame, a vessel of victory. And as you pour into this work, heaven pours back into you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over with favor, because in God's story, victims don't stay victims. They rise as victors, and their victory feeds nations. There's a fragrance that follows those who've walked with God through suffering. It isn't the smell of smoke or sorrow, it's the quiet aroma of glory. Chosen one, you carry that fragrance now. It's the scent of redemption, of prayers answered in whispers, full of tears that turned into testimonies. Wherever you go, that invisible perfume of grace announces that heaven has been here. Your scars are no longer marks of pain, they are seals of purpose. They speak silently to every soul who still wonders whether broken things can ever be made beautiful again. They can. You are proof. The fragrance of glory flows from the cracks that once leaked pain. God didn't erase your scars, He anointed them. You see, in the kingdom, beauty is never born in comfort. It's birthed in collision where despair meets hope, where weakness meets divine strength. That's where your story was written. Every bruise became a brushstroke on the canvas of redemption. Every setback was heaven's way of shaping depth in your soul. You once asked, "Why me?" You couldn't see the masterpiece being painted through your endurance. You thought you were being shattered beyond repair. But what was actually happening was refinement. The potter was spinning you on his wheel, pressing, reshaping, purifying. You didn't know then that glory has a weight, and you were being built to carry it. Beloved, notice how people have begun to sense something different about you. They can't always explain it, but they feel peace in your presence. You've become a walking reminder that healing is possible. That's not just personality, it's presence. The same spirit that comforted you now flows through you, turning pain into perfume. You once prayed to be delivered from suffering. Now you find yourself grateful for it, because you've learned that every wound was an opening for grace to enter. You don't resent the pain anymore. You recognize it as the price of wisdom. You walk lighter because you no longer carry bitterness. You've traded anger for awareness. You've learned that forgiving was never about excusing it, was about freeing yourself from what could no longer grow with you. Now, your story has become sacred medicine without preaching. You heal people just by being real, without trying. You inspire hope simply by existing, because authenticity carries its own anointing. The fragrance of glory doesn't need effort, it needs surrender. You stopped trying to appear perfect, and in that surrender, heaven began to shine effortlessly through you. The most powerful testimonies don't come from those who never fell. They come from those who fell deeply and got up differently. You've been through that transformation. You no longer seek validation, you seek impact. You no longer chase applause, you chase alignment. That shift is what glory looks like when it matures inside a soul. As was written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 18, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Oh, the glory revealed in you, not just around you. It doesn't manifest as fame or comfort, but as peace that surpasses understanding. That's the glory that endures beyond titles and applause. It's the light that never fades because it doesn't depend on circumstance. Chosen one. This fragrance upon your life, it travels. It seeps into conversations, into environments, into moments where despair once lived. It lingers long after you leave, like the afterglow of dawn. That is your ministry now, to carry heaven's scent wherever darkness has overstayed its welcome. But take heed. Glory attracts both seekers and spectators. Some will be drawn to your light for healing. Others will come out of curiosity or envy. Don't let either distract you. The fragrance is not for performance, it's for purpose. You don't need to prove that you're anointed. Oil doesn't announce itself, it simply flows. This new season of your life will not require striving. The doors that open now will be drawn to your essence, not your effort. You won't have to force what's meant for you. Glory will make room for itself. Every place your feet touch becomes a little more luminous. Every word you speak carries the softness of redemption. You've become a vessel of restoration, a walking promise that beauty still blooms from ashes. So breathe deeply. Beloved, can you sense it? That faint, holy fragrance rising from your spirit. It's the evidence that the refining was worth it. The scent of divine survival. The perfume of peace. It's all over you. You are no longer the person who entered the fire. You are the fragrance that walked out. There are moments when heaven calls for a response, not in words, but in alignment. This is one of those moments. Chosen one. You've walked through storms, survived betrayals, outlasted delay, and now the air around you feels charged, almost alive. That's because the decree of victory has already been spoken in the Spirit. You're standing in the afterglow of divine justice. It's time to agree with heaven about who you are. You've been tested long enough. The valley is behind you. The same hands that shielded you through fire are now lifting you into fulfillment. The atmosphere around your life is shifting, and even creation seems to respond. Birds sing differently. The wind carries peace instead of pressure. The weight you carried is gone because grace has taken over. There's something sacred about this kind of victory. It doesn't roar. It radiates. You're not stepping out with vengeance, but with vision. You're not proving a point, you're fulfilling a promise. Every injustice has become fertilizer for your fruit. Every heartbreak has turned into a melody of healing. Every scar now carries light. And what's unfolding now isn't luck, it's law. Spiritual law. What you sowed in faith is now returning, multiplied. You sowed perseverance, and now you're reaping stability. You sowed obedience, and now you're reaping overflow. You sowed tears, and now joy has begun its harvest. There was a time when you wondered if the waiting would ever end. You prayed for change, but the silence stretched on. Now that same silence is breaking open with manifestation. The shift you couldn't see is now undeniable. Doors are opening that you didn't knock on. Favor is calling your name in places where you were once forgotten. This is not random, it's recompense. You are stepping into a divine exchange. Your struggle for strength, your weeping for worship, your pain for power. God doesn't return you to what was, He ushers you into what will be. You are not being restored to the old, you are being reborn into the new. This is a prophetic moment. What's happening now is not just external, it's eternal. Every part of your life is realigning with heaven's original blueprint. What was stolen is being restored not equally, but exceedingly. You are not just coming back, you're coming back multiplied. Chosen one. Lift your eyes. The horizon is no longer gray. The sun has found you again, and its warmth feels different. It feels personal. You've entered a season where ease replaces effort, clarity replaces confusion, and peace replaces panic. This is what divine victory feels like. It's not loud, but it's lasting. You are not the same person who entered the battle. You've gained spiritual muscle, prophetic sight, unshakable faith. You can now stand in places that would have once broken you. You no longer respond to darkness. You command it to move. That's what heaven does through those who endure with purity. You're about to see reversal like never before. The very ones who questioned your faith will marvel at your fruit. The same environment that resisted you will now receive from you. The stage that was used to mock you will become the platform that magnifies what God has done. But remember, chosen one, victory is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your legacy. Every blessing you carry now is meant to overflow into others. Your triumph was never meant to terminate with you. It was meant to travel through you. You are becoming a living prophecy of restoration. As heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 9, "Then the Lord your God will make you most prosperous in all the work of your hands and in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock and the crops of your land. The Lord will again delight in you and make you prosperous, just as he delighted in your ancestors." Oh, that promise is active. It's alive. It's not an ancient echo. It's your present reality. You are walking into a season where everything you touch will bear evidence of divine favor. The drought is over. The heavens above you are open. Now, it's time to seal this moment, to agree, to align, to affirm. Type 9,999 inches. The comments. 9 is the number of divine completion, and 4 nines signify that the cycle has ended completely. No return to pain, no return to fear, no return to limitation. When you type it, you are not just acknowledging victory, you are declaring permanence. Let it be your signature in the spirit realm. I have entered my season of final completion. Because, beloved, this is not a temporary breakthrough. This is a permanent establishment. What God builds now will not crumble. What he restores will not be reversed. You are standing in the fullness of fulfillment, marked, multiplied, and manifesting everything he promised. There is a holy fear that follows the truly chosen, not the fear of man, but the fear of the Lord, and the trembling it brings to darkness itself. You felt it, haven't you? That shift in the air when you walk into a room, the unspoken awareness, the spiritual resistance. It's not that you're intimidating, it's that what you carry cannot be ignored. Light, pure and unfiltered, always disturbs what hides in shadow. Chosen one. This is why some people react strangely around you. They sense something eternal about you, even if they cannot name it. The presence of God within you exposes the motives of hearts. Darkness is allergic to authenticity, and your spirit radiates it without trying. What others see as mere kindness, heaven knows as holy authority. You are no longer who you were. The wilderness taught you wisdom. The crushing taught you compassion. The delay taught you discernment. Now, you carry not only power, but purity. And that combination unsettles the spiritual realm. Demons don't fear talent, they fear transformation. And you, beloved, have been transformed. Every chosen one reaches a point where they realize that their very existence is warfare, not because they seek it, but because they embody what darkness despises: obedience, faith, resilience, love that forgives too much, light that refuses to fade. Hell cannot destroy you. So it tries to distract you. It throws noise, confusion, temptation, anything to dim what it cannot defeat. But those tactics no longer work on you. You've outgrown them. You've learned to recognize the difference between an attack and an assignment. You've learned that not every battle deserves a response, and not every insult requires explanation. You are no longer moved by shadows because you've learned who stands beside you in the light. And yet, with all that power, there is still humility. True strength wears silence like armor. The fear of the chosen is not loud, it is subtle. It's in your peace when provoked, in your calm when chaos rises, in your refusal to hate when hatred would be easier. Every act of mercy you show confuses the enemy. Every time you forgive, you remind darkness that you're governed by heaven, not hurt. You are the paradox that darkness cannot comprehend, wounded yet whole, humbled yet crowned, quiet yet unshakably powerful. This is why the enemy trembles even when you whisper his name, because your whisper is backed by obedience. And obedience is louder than any shout. Think back to how many times you were supposed to fall, how many traps you narrowly escaped, how many times the weight of despair almost took you, but every time you rose, the foundations of hell cracked a little more. Every morning you chose to believe again. Light pushed darkness one step further back. That is the fear of the chosen. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. You are a walking contradiction to the plans of the enemy. You carry heaven's frequency, and the atmosphere shifts to accommodate your presence. You might not see it, but in the unseen realm, angels move. When you move, your steps are not random, they are ordered. When you speak truth, heaven amplifies it. When you walk into a place filled with confusion, peace follows you like a shadow. You don't need to announce your anointing, it announces itself in every room you enter. The darkness remembers you, not because of your name, but because of the mark you carry. The oil upon your life is recognized across realms. You are sealed, protected, and distinguished. The enemy's fear is not that you'll fail, it's that you'll realize how unstoppable you truly are once you walk fully in your calling. As the apostle wrote to the Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And that is your assurance. The work in you cannot be undone. The flame within you cannot be extinguished. The anointing over you cannot be transferred or stolen. What heaven births cannot be aborted by hell. So when you feel pressure increasing, do not panic. It is confirmation. The enemy always attacks what heaven is about to advance. The turbulence you sense is not destruction, it's ascension. Every shaking is clearing your atmosphere for greater revelation. Chosen one. Walk in quiet confidence. You no longer need to prove your worth. You are the living proof. You don't need to explain your peace. You are peace. You don't need to fight for power. You are power under control. That is the fear of the chosen heaven inside human form. Light wrapped in flesh. Purpose walking with pulse. And wherever you go, darkness knows its time is up. Restitution, it's one of heaven's most beautiful words. It means not only giving back what was taken, but multiplying it. Restoring it to a degree that makes the loss almost unrecognizable. Chosen one. This is the season of divine restitution for you. Every seed you sowed in tears, every loss you endured quietly, every injustice you bore with grace, all of it is returning, transformed and multiplied. Restitution doesn't simply replace, it redeems. It reaches back into the years that pain seemed to steal and rewrites their purpose. God doesn't merely hand you back what was lost. He restores what was meant to be had. Those losses never occurred. He redeems time, opportunity, relationships, identity. He turns delay into divine leverage. You have walked through seasons that seemed like subtraction, but in heaven's arithmetic, subtraction is often set up for multiplication. The pruning was painful, but it made room for fruit. The emptiness you once feared has now become sacred. Space. God Himself fills with abundance. Do you remember those quiet nights when you whispered, "Lord, I can't take another loss"? Heaven heard. But what you didn't see was that every loss was being recorded, not as tragedy, but as testimony in waiting. God's Eustace ledger never forgets. Every tear became currency. Every disappointment became evidence. Every delay was documented for restoration. And now, heaven has declared the word, return. Things that were stolen are being recalled to you. Opportunities you thought were gone forever are resurfacing, not because of luck, but because of law, spiritual law, that demands restoration to the righteous. What the enemy tried to claim as permanent defeat, God has reclassified as temporary delay. Restitution, however, doesn't always come in the same form as loss. Sometimes you lose money and gain wisdom. Sometimes you lose people and gain peace. Sometimes you lose time and gain timelessness, clarity so pure that it redeems every wasted year. What God restores always outweighs what was lost. The scale of divine justice never tilts unevenly. Beloved, pay attention to the quiet signs. Relationships mending unexpectedly, ideas resurfacing after years of silence, doors opening where rejection once stood. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven is moving through time, revisiting old seasons and rewriting their endings. What once brought pain will now bring profit, spiritual, emotional, even tangible. The Lord is not returning you to your past. He is reclaiming your past for your future. That's the mystery of restitution. It doesn't rewind. It redeems. It extracts value from what once seemed worthless. Even the years of wandering will now bear fruit. Every detour becomes a divine landmark of how far grace has carried you. You are entering a period where everything will begin to make sense. The betrayals, the breakdowns, the long waits, all of them are converging into clarity. You will understand why it had to happen the way it did. You'll see how the pain prepared you for what's coming. Because restoration without revelation is incomplete. God always gives understanding along with increase. Chosen one. Do not fear the memory of your loss. It no longer has power to hurt you. Instead, it serves you now. The very thing that once wounded you will soon work for you. The ashes you thought were waste are becoming the raw material for your reward. As the psalmist wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 126, verse 5, "Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy." That verse is not poetic comfort, it's prophetic law. You've sown in seasons of brokenness, and now the earth itself owes you a harvest. Everything you endured in silence was seed, and heaven is faithful to return harvest for every seed that didn't die in bitterness. The coming restoration will be so complete that those who once pitied you will stand in awe. They will not understand how quickly things turn. They will not be able to explain how peace floods places that were once chaos, but you'll know it's restitution. Even your countenance will change. There will be a calmness that no circumstance can shake. Joy will no longer be a visitor, it will be a resident. You will laugh again, not because the pain never happened, but because it can no longer define you. Restitution is the sound of chains snapping quietly. It is the realization that you never truly lost, only lent what heaven is now returning with interest. So stand tall. Chosen one. What was taken will not remain gone. What was broken will not remain shattered. The hand that allowed the loss is the same hand now orchestrating the return. And when it comes, and it will come, you'll realize that nothing was wasted. Not the waiting, not the weeping, not the wondering. Every second was sacred. Every tear an investment. Because in God's economy, nothing is ever truly lost. It's only waiting to be redeemed. The call has gone out. And now the remnant rises. You can feel it in your spirit, can't you? That subtle but undeniable pull, the sound of destiny summoning the scattered hearts back into alignment. This is not a crowd God is building. It's an army, not of noise, but of light, not of ego, but of endurance. And you, chosen one, are being positioned among them. Heaven is gathering its voices, its intercessors, its truth carriers. People like you, those who have walked through the fire, who have wrestled with doubt, who have survived seasons meant to silence them, are now the ones God is calling to stand together, not to compete, but to complete. Each life, a note, each story, a sound, together forming heaven's new melody on earth. This is the remnant, the unshaken, the refined, the faithful few who refuse to bow to despair. You are part of something larger than you can see. Every message that reaches you, every moment that awakens your faith, is not random, it's recruitment. Heaven is gathering its builders. And if this word has found you today, it means you're one of them. Not a spectator, but a participant. You're not called to watch miracles happen. You're called to be the miracle in motion. Beloved, your presence here matters. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe. It's not just digital activity, it's alignment. You're amplifying the frequency of light in a world drowning in noise. Think of it like ripples on still water. One gentle motion creates a wave that reaches unseen shores. That's what your engagement does. It sends out hope, one share at a time. And for those whose hearts feel stirred to give, to sow into this message, understand this. You're not fueling a platform, you're fueling a purpose. Every offering, every donation, is like adding oil to a lamp that refuses to go out. The glow you see here, the words that reach your soul, these things live because someone somewhere believed they should. When you sow, you say, I want the light to keep burning. You become a guardian of the flame. You turn passive belief into active partnership. You're not just receiving, you're releasing life into countless others who will hear these same words long after you. Imagine a vineyard again. One person plants, another waters, another harvests. Together, they create wine for the king's table. You're giving, you're sharing, your presence It's all part of that same divine ecosystem. You may never meet the souls your act of kindness touches, but heaven keeps the record, and the harvest always returns, multiplied. This isn't about transaction, it's about transformation. You are sowing into something that speaks life, builds faith, and restores hope. Each moment, you help sustain this space. You're building an altar where weary hearts can find warmth again. The Spirit of God is using simple acts, clicks, comments, generosity to knit together a global tapestry of revival. It's not about platforms or personalities, it's about presence. The light you see in these words exists to awaken the light inside you. As Paul wrote in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58, "Stand firm. Dear brothers, let nothing move you. Give yourselves fully to the work of the anti-main, Lord, knowing your labor is not in vain. Your support is not in vain. Your faith is not unnoticed. Every act of participation is a spark that helps ignite another. Together, we keep the fire alive. So if this word has touched you, let your heart respond. Like this message, if it reminded you that you are not alone, share it so another wandering soul can find direction. Subscribe so you never miss the sound of heaven whispering through these words. And if you feel led, donate, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. Every seed sustains the flame that keeps lighting countless others. And once you've done so, pause for a moment, reflect, then leave a comment below. Tell us what part of this journey spoke to your soul, because your words might be the encouragement someone else desperately needs. You are not just a listener, you are part of this unfolding story. Chosen one. This movement is not mine or yours, it's ours. Heaven writes through us all. We are the remnant, the rising light, the proof that God still breathes through willing hearts. So stand firm. Beloved, keep the flame, share the light, speak your truth, and together we will carry this divine fire farther than any one of us ever could alone. There is a crown on your head that cannot be removed, not because of your perfection, but because of your perseverance. It was not placed there by the hands of men, it was set by the hands of heaven. You didn't earn it through performance, you received it through endurance. Every season of pain you endured, every moment you chose faith over fear. Tighten that crown a little more until it became part of who you are. Chosen one. The battles you fought were never about what you lost. They were about what you carried. The enemy did not come after your possessions. He came after your position. He wanted your confidence, your joy, your authority. But the one thing he could not touch was your crown, because it is sealed in eternity. That crown represents identity. It's the invisible mark that tells darkness, this one belongs to God. You may have felt ordinary, forgotten, or unworthy at times, but the crown never left. Even when you fell, grace held it in place. Even when you doubted, mercy guarded it. And now, after everything you've survived, it shines brighter than ever before. Crowns are forged in pressure. Gold doesn't glisten without fire, and authority doesn't mature without adversity. That's why your journey has felt so heavy. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. You were trained in silence, refined in obscurity, strengthened through storms. The weight you carried wasn't to crush you, it was to teach you how to carry glory. Every scar on your soul is a gemstone in that crown. Every tear is a drop of oil that keeps it shining. The seasons that seemed unfair were actually sacred. They purified your heart so that when power came, pride would not follow. You are now crowned, not just with favor, but with wisdom. You know what pain costs, and therefore you know what peace is worth. Do not let anyone convince you that your crown is fragile. It is not made of earthly gold that can tarnish. It is woven with eternity, threaded with grace, strengthened by faith, anchored in covenant. No failure can undo it. No slander can diminish it. No betrayal can remove it. What heaven has placed, no hand can replace. There will always be those who envy your radiance, who question your worthiness to wear it. But their opinion cannot change divine appointment. They see the glory. They do not know the story. They see the crown. They cannot comprehend the cost. You didn't stumble into it. You bled for it. You cried for it. You waited for it. That's why it fits you perfectly. You are not arrogant for wearing it boldly. You are obedient. Because your confidence is not in yourself, it is in the one who called you. The crown is not a symbol of superiority. It's a reminder of surrender. Every time you bow before God, the crown becomes more secure. Every time you choose humility over revenge, heaven polishes it. Remember this truth. Authority without humility becomes tyranny. But authority rooted in surrender becomes legacy. You were chosen not just to wear the crown, but to carry its responsibility to walk as a reflection of heaven's justice, mercy, and love. Your life is a message to others that endurance has reward, that obedience has honor, that the humble are never forgotten. As the Apostle Peter wrote in his first letter, chapter 5, verse 4, "And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away." That is your inheritance. Beloved, the world's crowns fade with time, but yours only grows brighter with every act of faithfulness. It is not stored in a vault, it rests upon your spirit, radiating light into every room you enter. You may not see it, but the unseen world does. Angels recognize it. Darkness respects it. Heaven rejoices in it. So stand tall, but stay tender. Walk boldly, but remain kind. Wear your crown, but never forget who placed it there. You are not above others, you are among them. Carrying heaven's reminder that glory can coexist with gentleness. And when life tries to make you doubt again, when voices whisper that you're unworthy, touch your heart and remember, the crown is still there. No circumstance, no failure, no fear can remove what God Himself secured. You were crowned in private, long before you were recognized in public. You were chosen when no one else believed in you. And now, you walk as living proof that what God crowns, He keeps. So let the world see your peace, your steadiness, your grace, because that's how the chosen shine, not by striving, but by simply standing in the truth of who they already are, crowned, kept, and unshakably chosen. Justice has spoken. The sword has fallen, not to destroy, but to divide. It separates truth from deceit, purity from pretense, destiny from delay. Chosen one, you are standing in the aftermath of divine judgment, and the air around you hums with holy finality. It is finished. The long battle, the unseen warfare, The endless nights of wondering if heaven still remembered your name, all of it has culminated in this moment. You didn't see the movement, but you feel the result. Things are settling into place. The noise that once filled your mind has gone quiet. You sense peace not because the world suddenly softened, but because heaven established order. The chaos has been commanded to yield. This is the aftermath of justice, not vengeance, but victory. God's justice is not like man's. It doesn't destroy for satisfaction, it restores for purpose. When his hand moves, the wicked are silenced, but the righteous are strengthened. His justice doesn't merely end what was wrong, it inaugurates what is right. You are walking in the first steps of a brand new order, one written long ago in heaven's unseen decrees. The same forces that once opposed you now stand powerless. Their weapons have turned to dust. The lies spoken against you have no echo left to sustain them. You don't need to celebrate their downfall, you simply need to move forward. Because while they plotted endings, God was writing beginnings. You were not meant to stay in the courtroom of contention. You are being escorted into the field of fulfillment. The judgment has been rendered, and the gavel of God has struck. Not guilty. Heaven declared over you, restored, redeemed, reinstated. You are free to build again, free to breathe again, free to walk without the shadow of accusation following you. This is what swift justice looks like, not drawn out, not debated. But décisive. It comes when heaven says, enough. It comes when the weight of righteousness tips the scales and mercy steps forward to complete what wrath began. You are not standing in ruin. You are standing on holy reconstruction. The same fire that consumed what was false is now refining what is true. Chosen one. You've seen both sides of God's hand, the gentle one that held you and the mighty one that defended you. You now know him not only as comforter, but as commander. And because of that, your faith has matured beyond mere belief. It has become knowing. You no longer hope he'll fight for you. You know he already has. Take a moment and breathe. This silence isn't emptiness, it's peace settling like dust after battle. Every realm, seen and unseen, recognizes the verdict. The heavens rejoice. The earth aligns. And even darkness concedes defeat. You may not see it, but your name has been cleared in the courts of eternity. And from this moment on, you will notice acceleration. Things that once took years will take days. The same doors that resisted you will open with ease, not because you pushed harder, but because resistance has been removed. When justice moves, friction ceases. The path becomes smooth. The pace becomes steady, and the outcome becomes inevitable. As the prophet Isaiah recorded in chapter 61, verse 7, instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you will inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. That promise rests upon you now. The double portion doesn't just represent blessing, it represents restoration with interest. What was stolen is returned, multiplied. What was delayed is released, accelerated, and what was broken is rebuilt stronger than before. So stand in your new authority. Beloved, the war that tried to end you only proved who you were. The enemies who laughed at you now serve as witnesses to what God can do. The justice of heaven has closed one chapter and opened another. You don't need to rush. The season will unfold at the speed of grace. You don't need to explain. Truth will reveal itself over time. You don't need to defend. Your peace has already testified louder than any words could. This is the sound of completion. The gavel has fallen. The crown remains. The path is clear. The chosen stand victorious, not because they fought harder, but because God ended the fight. Justice was swift, mercy was sure, and destiny unstoppable. Chosen one. If these words have stirred something deep in you, if they've reminded you that your story is not over, that your destiny still burns bright, then let this moment be your response. Don't just leave quietly. Help this light keep reaching others who need it. When you like this message, you're not just acknowledging it, you're lifting it higher, allowing someone lost in darkness to stumble across hope. When you share, you extend this fire beyond yourself. You become a messenger of grace, a bridge between despair and deliverance. And when you subscribe, you're saying, I want to stay connected to this flow of truth. It's not about numbers, it's about nurture, staying near the voice that keeps your spirit awake. If you feel led to donate, I know that you're not giving to a name, you're giving to a mission. Every seed sown fuels the words that comfort, convict, and call the broken back to purpose. You're helping this light stay lit, this message stay alive. And finally, take a moment to comment below. Share what resonated, what shifted inside you. Your story might be the very confirmation someone else is waiting for. You are part of something divine, something rising. Let your engagement be your amen, your declaration that you believe light must keep shining. Together, we'll keep the fire burning, word by word, soul by soul, until the world remembers again. God's chosen still stand.